Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. In the forefront of a lot of our minds right now, because of a lot of our friends and family are being affected, are wildfires. It's still early morning, I'm working on it. Wildfires, because they are spread across a bit of Utah right now. So this morning we have Mike Owens, who's the Park City Fire District Fire Marshal. Look, I said that clean. I'm really excited.
And it takes a long time to write down, too.
Mike, we're really glad you're here. It's very important this time of year, but especially right now. It's been really dry, it's been really sunny, it's been hot, and we have all these big fires. Let's introduce you a bit. Tell us about yourself as a firefighter, and then kind of go into what's going on and give us an update on what's happening in Utah right now with the fires that are existing. Fires that are existing. I'll get there.
It's still early. You said it's early.
You start talking, please.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been a firefighter with the Park City Fire District for 13 years. For the past year, I've been the fire marshal of the Park City Fire District, and that's my responsibility there, is to make sure that things are safe. People are safe in the events they go to, the buildings that they visit are safe, and we spend a significant amount of our summer working with fuel mitigation, which means cleaning up the landscape so that when we have fires, they're not as, the buildings that they visit are safe, and we spend a significant amount of our summer working with fuel mitigation, which means cleaning up the landscape so that when we have fires, they're not as, 3 years, excuse me, I've worked with fire prevention. So got a little bit of a rounded education, I think we could say.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to update everyone that's watching on what's going on with the fires down in the Salt Lake area?
Absolutely.
In the surrounding area.
So the Pole Creek fire and the Bald Mountain fire are the two that give us our coughs in the morning and our sore throats in the afternoon. Those are very, we call them wind-driven fires. We've had some incredible winds over the past, I think we're pushing 9 days now, where we've had red flag warnings. And those fires have grown tremendously. They've reached over 100,000 acres combined together, and that's bigger than Utah, or it's bigger than Utah Lake, if you think about that.
And they've combined, haven't
they? Have merged. They have merged. They're still considered separate fires, but they have joined, and the services that are fighting those fires said it's not reasonable to fight these separately. Let's pool our forces and do it together.
Good. And talk about evacuations, and talk about the manpower that's there fighting this right now.
So my wife's parents actually live in Salem, and the day that the notice came out that things were evacuating, all of a sudden the phone lines lit up, and who was going to do what. They were lucky enough not to be evacuated. They were put on pre-evacuation notice, which means that at any time they could get a notice that they have to leave.
Let's be ready.
And it's been a strain on their community.
Sure.
But I got to tell you, one thing I'm really impressed with is how well the people in that area have taken the people who have been evacuated out, how they've taken care of them. It's just really incredible to see these people come together and help each other out. So we have people who have been evacuated. The evacuation areas are growing as the fire expands. It's coming a little bit more northeast, and more people are getting evacuated. The number one thing there, though, is when you are placed under these pre-evacuation orders, you got to be ready to go.
And with no rain in the forecast and nothing but warm, not super warm, but pretty warm down there, and sunshine, is there any sort of date that you guys see of getting this put out, or any hopes you guys have with that?
You know, the expected extinguishment date of this fire is October 1st.
Okay.
And that's the date that's set by the people who are planning, and they say by this time we should be able to have it out, and hopefully they can stick to that. The windy days we're having are just wreaking havoc on it,
Yeah.
though, making it bigger and making it harder to fight.
Yeah, very tough. Let's bring it home a little bit. Let's talk about here in Park City, the concerns, same concerns as down there. It's been just as dry, just as sunny, just as windy. And let's talk about advice you give people, so your concerns and things that we can do as citizens here to not have not start forest fires, and to protect ourselves as well.
So the key here is we're talking about forest fires, an ounce of prevention. That thing is, that saying is so very true here. Every little thing that we do to prevent that fire is going to make a big difference. Once the fire gets started, then that's where we have our huge problem. So anything that anyone's willing to do will make just a giant difference. The fuels around your home is probably the biggest thing that you can help with. We live in the forest. I remember several years ago, I was looking out the window, just looking at the mountains we have here. It was a beautiful summer evening, and I just thought, this place is beautiful. We love that. That's why we live here. We don't want to cut down all the trees around our house. We're certainly not asking people to, but do maintain those trees. Don't let them just grow wild. We do what's called limbing trees, which is where you take the trees up off the ground. So instead of walking through thick, dense forest, imagine walking through a park, and that's sort of the sort of thing we're shooting for. We don't want foliage right up against the house. You know, the same thing with these trees. If they're hanging over your roof, where are those embers going to go if they fall? They're going to go right onto your roof. Yep. And the other thing that doesn't get a lot of talk is something we call hardening your home. Okay. There's a lot of little cracks and crevices where embers can get in. So if there's a fire and it's blowing embers towards our houses, we want to make sure that those embers can't find a spot to rest and light things on fire. So things such as removing all the debris from under your deck, making sure that things can't get under your deck to begin with. If you have little parts of your house that stick out that don't go all the way to the ground, make sure that the bottom of those are covered so that there's not a place where a fire can start below that and then move into your house.
Wow. So those are things, I mean, I wouldn't even think of, so that's actually awesome advice. And you mentioned HOAs being really helpful in this as well.
We did. HOAs are one of our strongest tools. Once a house is built, it's very difficult to enforce the Wildland Urban Interface Code is what we call it, or the WUI is these list of rules that we have to follow. And the authority that the county has to enforce that it's fairly restricted. Imagine how you would feel if the county knocked on your door and said, hey, this tree that your grandpa planted has to be cut down. Yeah. You know, we don't want to do that. You know, we're attached to our trees here. So homeowners associations are very strong in that they have the ability to set rules and really enforce those rules, because now you have neighbors not telling on each other, but looking out for each other and working with each other to create this overall plan. It's very hard for one person to do the work and then the people around them not to do anything, and then they suffer the consequences of that. Homeowners associations are a very powerful tool for us.
Exactly.
And mine too.
It's early. It's early morning. I'm glad I'm not alone, but you're doing great. What else do we need to discuss concerning wildfires? Right now, we know that. What's the ban on fires right now for Park City area? Like if you're up in New Uintas, or because there's a couple fires up around Mirror Lake right now, and you mentioned that. You want to talk about that quickly? So
the fires up around Mirror Lake, they are fairly pretty much under control. Okay. You will see smoke from those. A lot of that has to do with just controlling the fire that's already protected and surrounded, so the fire can't get any bigger. Okay. So those we're in pretty good shape with those. You're going to have to remind me of your question.
I'm assuming there's no allowance of fires.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yes. So fires are out. We're not starting fires. Right now we're under what's called a red flag warning. Okay. And to get those, you need high winds, which we have. Great winds for flying kites, not so great for watching fires burn across the mountainside. Yeah. So we have high winds. We have low relative humidity, which means the plants are getting dry. Yeah. So as those winds blow over the plants, the moisture that's there is drying out pretty quick. And then the last thing is these wonderful temperatures that we're having that just makes it so great to be outside. The consequence to that is our hills are a tinderbox. Yeah. So it doesn't take much to get a fire started. So like you said, no campfires. Campfires are out right now. In the Park City and in the Summit County area, we're still under the same fire restrictions that we had over the summer. Smoking is actually something that a lot of people don't consider. Right now, it's against the law to smoke in any area that can catch on fire, unless you're sitting inside your car. So as you're tossing those cigarette butts out the window, that can be a source of ignition in these dry fuels. Fireworks, of course, are out. We've had several law changes with those, but those we don't want to see any of those right now. And just generally, we're asking people to use your head. Yeah. If there's a place where if you want to have a campfire and you're thinking you're not going to get caught, think of the consequences if you do.
Yeah, it's pretty selfish.
We have these beautiful mountains. I don't know if you remember, several years ago we had the Airy fire just right off of Deer Valley Drive. Yeah. And we got that out. It took a little bit of time. It was a very interesting fire, the way it reacted with the weather we were having at the time. But that started from cigarettes. we found the traces of them on the trail. It's those little things that'll set off our hills, and we live in a beautiful place. We'd really like to keep it that way.
100% agree. Thank you, Mike Owens.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You are the Park City Fire District Fire Marshal. We're really glad you joined us this morning. Thank you for the update. Thank you so much for the advice and the wise words of things we can do to prevent and protect ourselves. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
And you have a great rest of your day. Don't go anywhere. There's a lot more to come this morning on the Mountain Morning Show.